Today's conversation is with Jenny Townsend, who, by the way, has one hell of a background that I feel like a lot of us have gone through, both either in our relationship and our business, both combined. But the thing is, it's vitally important for you to understand how to get through those relationships, those issues, and how to balance your business. So, without further ado, let's hear about her background, what she is, and then we're going to dive into some helpful tips, comments, or whatever conversations to help you in your business. Jenny, without further ado, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to share my wisdom with your listeners and get people to start stroking it and living the best life that they can today.
I love that, by the way. When I had seen that, I died laughing, and one of the reasons I was like, I have to have her on because Stroke It is just hilarious from multitude of reasons, but 12-year-old boy self makes myself laugh too.
I know most people, for their first, when they first hear it, their eyes get really big and they lean in. They're like, "What did you say?" And I was like, "It's all about enhancing the relationship with yourself and others, and it's about the ego and validation." And then I go into it, and they're like, "Oh, I get it now." But in my book, there is a chapter for your pleasure, but we'll cover that, I'm sure.
Absolutely, we will. All right, so talk to us from the beginning, before you got to Stroke It and the book and all of those. Talk us through your life's journey.
Yeah, so I'll make it quick because I mean, even though I'm 42, I've had a lot of things happen. But yeah, so I was born and raised Sarasota. I had a great childhood. My parents put us in sports, 4-H, any type of club that we could be part of. My parents did divorce not once but twice, so that was fun. But I always wanted to be an entrepreneur and start my own company. And my parents were entrepreneurs, so they owned a window cleaning company. We had a hay business, so you pick garden, a lot of different things. So I grew up like as a tomboy and always hardworking. We did not grow up poor, but my parents did raise us that way, like where we had food on the table, and that's what we were grateful for. So I've just had an amazing life, and I've done real estate. I've sold beneficial bacteria. I've traveled all across the globe for work. My most recent thing is I own a music school, which has about 500 families, 42 employees. I started that about 9 years ago, happily married, super passionate, excited about it. Experienced a little hiccup in the wedding or in the marriage department because of my business. Um, Through a discovery of my husband having an affair with another coworker. Through that journey, I was able to recover and now have the best of both worlds. We have a beautiful marriage, and my business is now booming. So that's a snapshot.
So you've done a couple things. You have a few experiences, just small
just
ones.
just a few, yeah. But they've all made me who I am today, and I'm really grateful for the amazing journey. I am definitely a person that sees the glass as half full, if not overflowing, with opportunities. And at every turn of the road, I always try to turn the obstacle into an opportunity. And a lot of those detours have led to amazing places that I didn't expect or that weren't on the vision board.
Let's dive into that. I know we have a lot of other things to talk about, but that specifically, shit happens in our lives, okay? Whatever it may be, we all have our own things that we're going through or have gone through or are going to go through. And we all talk about being optimistic and, glass half full type of situation. The media loves saying that a lot. We all love saying that. But when it comes down to the actual work of going through that situation, since you have so much experience in those categories, what do you do? Like, what is your walkthrough when that happens to remain optimistic and to see it half full and to keep moving forward?
Yeah, so I have like two different examples, but I always think of like, why is this happening? How did this happen? What led me to this? And where am I going to be going? And I always try to think of everything as a learning experience as well. And I know that I'm being taught something. And in the thick of it, it's really hard to understand that. And you become very angry. You can become very sad because you don't have control. So I have learned to release control, which is super, super challenging, especially for a type A personality. But one example would be when the real estate market tanked. I was selling real estate. That was my full-time job. I had a mortgage to pay. And when it tanked, I literally could not pay my mortgage. I was renting my rooms on rentaroom.com. And that's when I had to go back to school because I didn't have a bachelor's degree. I only had an associate's degree. No one would hire me, even though I could outwork, outsell, and outdo most people on their teams. But going back to school required me to lean into that, but it led me to creating the business plan that I have, which was the music school that I started 7 or 8 or 9 years later. not knowing that's what I was going to be doing when I went to school. So once again, I went, had no idea, and I developed a business plan that actually funds my entire life now. Same situation with, when I started my company, I started off like super, super happy, happily married, really excited about the opportunity. And then 3 years later, I discovered my husband's having an affair with a coworker because, I was not present. I was so busy building this business. But on the flip side, when I walked out of my company, because I had to take time for myself to rebuild my marriage, I made that decision. My team that I had in place were able to lead and turn the company from red to black, from old school to new school, from like paper to digital. And they really took ownership of the company, like as if it was their own, and changed it for the better. That would have never happened if I would have been there. So I got pulled off the hamster wheel. I got pulled into the home life, which allowed me to create some really great balance and some tools where now I can help other people that are going through the same struggles and journeys. So I think it was just really about the approach and taking a step back and looking in and just being fluid.
Emotionally, when you're like that thing happens, whatever the thing is, it happens right now. What is what is your mechanism to kind of breathe and be able to take a step back and go, okay, this is what I need to know. This is what I need to do.
So breathing is one thing. Yeah. Emotionally, I've started doing meditation. I do a lot of journaling, which is how my book came about, was I started journaling. And I spent a lot of time by myself, whereas previously I would just surround myself with other people and just stay on the hamster wheel and stay busy. But where I'm at in this season of my life is I'm really just taking the time for myself. I'm listening to the voices within my head, and I'm having to change up that chatter because a lot of times it can be negative, but I'm really having to filter what it's listening to. And, I think just being creative and thinking of the life that I want to create and what serves me. So I guess I've become a little bit more selfish than I was before, but that idea of being selfish with my time and my energy is really serving me to my higher purpose, which is to lead my life the way I want to and to be able to help and serve more people.
That word selfish comes into play a lot, right? You're a good person. We know a lot of good people. Usually you go into business and do things because you want to help others as much as possible. But you end up either ruining a relationship, ruining yourself mentally, physically, whatever, because you're not selfish enough for yourself. What do you say to people that are, in that boat? They're like overdoing it. We call it burnout, whatever you want to call it, but they're overdoing it and you need to tell them, hey, go be selfish.
Yeah, some people just don't get it. Like, there's a lot of people that are just, they work really hard and they feel like the busier they are, the more successful they are. And I used to be that way. Like, people would call me and they'd be like, oh, how are you? And I felt like I had to list like everything that I was doing. I had to make it seem like I was too busy to be talking to them at that point in time. They would never understand. And basically, that wasn't doing anything. That wasn't serving me. And it wasn't serving the people that I love and I care about or the businesses. So I feel like until you're ready or you've had something major happen, you're not going to really be open to that shift in mindset to be able to take that time for you and to be able to tell other people no. I tell this to all my parents and my friends, like, and my best friends that have kids. I'm like, you have to say no. You can't continue serving everybody the way you're serving them because you're not serving yourself. And if I'm not in the best possible like mindset, I'm not gonna be able to serve anybody fully because I'm gonna be so tired. Everything I'm gonna be doing for other people is gonna be half-assed, it's gonna be tired. So I'm always encouraging people like to say no more, to take some more time, which it can be super hard. I mean, I was on that hamster wheel for 20 plus years. And it took a major life event to get me to change my mind, my ways, and to do a better job at life for myself and for others.
That's really what we like. Those who have gone through things now, we're like trying to explain to everyone. We don't want you to have to go through the situation that triggers all of this, right?
Right.
But it is one of those things. Being a former athlete myself, like it comes down to sometimes you have to experience it to really for it to click, right? There's just sometimes is what it is. Hopefully it's small, but you have to do that so you can kind of click it. It's the same thing with my boys. I can tell them 100 different times not to do this or how to do this or what to do, and then it happens, and then they finally start understanding. So it's the
Yeah,
same
100.
thing.
100%. I mean, I don't know for how many years I had to call my mom in my 20s and 30s and be like, okay, you were right. You're right. Or it's like the same time where everyone's like, don't spend a lot of money on your wedding, but you don't listen to anyone and you do. Fortunately, we still went on a honeymoon, but there's so many people that blow their budget on the wedding and they don't spend it on the honeymoon or the house. And so, a lot of times we do have to find out for ourselves. But I would encourage people to begin listening to others' advice and maybe taking it in or trying to understand the advice or the why they're telling you that so that you don't make the same mistake. And I feel like for so many years, I just dismissed a lot of great advice because of my ego, my pride, or because of the fact that I thought I knew everything and I didn't.
Correct. And now it's like, damn it, I really wish I would have learned a little more. So, okay, we've learned a lot about you. But as a business owner, what made you want to become the business owner and have the music school? Like, that's not something like to me that like jumps out off the page to do. But talk us through why that decision and what it took to even get a business going.
Yeah, so I'm all about experiences and interactions with people. And when I was in my early 20s, I was working for my dad's window cleaning company. So literally, I was on the sidewalk with a bucket of tools cleaning windows. And I had this young lady that asked me to come clean the windows at her house, which was in Daytona Beach, somewhere around there. And it was on the water. She had a boat. She drove a Mercedes. She had a tanning bed in her garage. And she was living life. And she was mid 20s. And I said, "What do you do?" And she goes, "I own a cheerleading school." And I knew at that point I was going to have a child based business. But I filed that memory away. We did the real estate, was waiting tables when the market tanked and trying to pay my mortgage. And that's where I came in contact with a lot of musicians that wanted a place to connect. When I started working on the financial aspects of the business, when I was just putting this makeup business together in college, I realized that the musicians didn't have money. So I went back to that memory from like 10 or 15 years earlier and said, hey, that child based business, parents invest in their children. Let's flip the switch on the business plan. And then I started developing it, finished the business plan, and then I traveled the country while I was a VP for so many years, and I started visiting all the music schools across the country with the thought that I may do that one day. And I was presented with the opportunity to actually do it. So I always wanted to be a business owner. I always wanted to work for myself. My parents were entrepreneurs, so it's in my blood. And I think that there's a sense of freedom that comes with being an entrepreneur. It's super hard and there's a lot of struggles, but there is a lot of payout. And I do encourage anybody that has a passion or a dream to start their own business to begin working out that business plan, whether it's starting with the business canvas, which is a snapshot of the business, and working on your exit strategy from your current role. So when I made the decision to start the music school, I gave myself, I think, 6 months of my current job. So I cut down all my expenses. Massage envy, nails, tanning bed. I traded in my Lexus for a Honda Accord. And I really started chipping away at those expenses so that I could start saving that money to where I could live off of that for the first year while I was starting my company. So if anyone is interested in any way of getting that started, I would really start to begin evaluating your expenses and developing an exit strategy from your current employer so you can go and fulfill that dream. And same thing for marriage. If you're thinking about exiting your marriage, develop an exit strategy that is going to be financially smart when you go to exit that marriage and really do a lot of the same work that I'm talking about on yourself before you eventually say, I'm done and throw in the towel. Because if you have the right mental capacity and the right exit strategy in the plan, you won't be doing things out of desperation. You're going to be making some smart decisions.
I'm so glad you threw an exit strategy. That was like, it's not talked about enough, both from like exiting career, marriage, or even your own business when you start one.
Right.
Having the understanding of how I'm going to exit will align most of all your decisions while you're in it, right? And that is vitally important. Everyone listening, like understand how you want to exit because it'll dictate how your other decisions are made. For you, it was, massage envy, changing cars and things like that. It could be totally different for someone else, but the only reason you knew that is because you had an exit strategy, no, both in time and what you wanted to do. And that helps you plan a lot better than just like, hey, whenever I'm ready, I'll leave.
Right. And I think that's been really helpful for me is have tons of mentors. And so having mentors that provide a lot of great guidance and support as well has been super powerful. But I always live by a 1-3-5 is like, where do I want to be in 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years? And you can even do a 10 year as well. And that has been super helpful for me professionally. Now, I didn't always develop one with my marriage. It was like for me personally and then for the business. So I feel like if you're going to develop a 1-3-5 and you are married, you should definitely have those conversations with your spouse to understand their goals and dreams and how you can work towards it as well. Because I think you're going to make some really great decisions as a team that are going to impact your financial success and your financial future. And it can be super eye opening, but it also provides a lot of clarity and hope, especially on those really, really hard days or hard seasons that you're going to go through out life as well.
So let's mix that now. Business owners, a lot of them are married. How do we balance that, right? Usually it's one spouse is the business owner, the other one isn't. It's rare that they're both in it together, but how do you balance that correctly? Because it does take so much time and effort to build a business, but also so much time and effort to have kids and so much time and effort to have a marriage.
Right. So for me personally, um, it took my husband and I going through that hiccup to really understand each other's needs and not even to understand them for us to communicate them to each other. Understanding each other's love languages was another huge component to the recovery of our marriage and the understanding and making our marriage priority. So for so many years, my priority was my company. Like everything company related. So it could be an employee, it could be a parent, it could be a kid, it could be the financial, everything. The company was the priority. And so I've really had to adjust the priorities and then create the time. And when I'm home, be present. It's so easy to get wrapped up in the phone and then scrolling and making phone calls. Like this morning, I'm working on a 10,000 square foot build out to move our facility. And my husband and I usually have breakfast together. And I caught myself like making phone calls to electricians. And I was like, oh, I need to put the phone down and be present. So that's been a game changer for us is really just making our marriage a priority and understanding each other's needs and creating a sense of time for myself as well. So whether it's, working out, going playing tennis or spending time with my friends to get recharged, I think it's really important for couples to have hobbies together, but to have hobbies with friends as well. And men spending time with men is super important and women as well. So us allowing each other to do that and understanding that we need that is super, super important. A lot of this stuff is also covered in my book, Stroke It. And then I did read another book called Becoming Your Spouse's Better Half. And both of my husband and I both read that book. And that was super eye opening, which helped and enhanced our relationship too.
That's awesome. All right, book time. The book is called Stroke It, which may or may not be the best ever, in my opinion. What made you want to write a book to begin with?
So first and foremost, I was a C student. Was not I had a tutor my entire life, like tutors. I was not a good student. I actually had a third grade teacher come into my music school not too long ago, and she walked in. She goes, "Do you own this place?" And I go, "I do." And she goes, "I'm so happy." As she pats me on the shoulder, "I'm so happy you found your way in life." So anybody can write a book. Anybody can do it. And it all started with the journal. So when I was going through the recovery stage from the discovery, I became very sick. I became just emotional. There was just so many things going on. And a lot of people recommended that I write it out, express the feelings, get it off your chest. And I didn't know how powerful that exercise would be, but it was super powerful. And once I started going through the journal, I started looking at some key points. And I was like, wow, this could be helpful for other people. And the name Stroke It came because somebody else was stroking my husband, mentally, emotionally, and of course, physically. And so when I started thinking about what that meant and the validation and that she was listening and that she was present and there was all these things, I was like, oh, wait, this doesn't just apply to a spouse. This applies to me. Like, how am I taking care of myself? How am I talking to myself? And then I started thinking about my company and, how do I take care of my employees? Do they feel appreciated? Do they feel valued? Do I praise them enough? Do they feel like I notice all their hard work? Are they being compensated fairly? And then I started thinking about how my employees serve me. taking ownership of their roles, growing the company, buying into the vision. And so, anyway, so I just started organizing my thoughts into this amazing guide. And it talks about friends and family. And of course, because most people think the topic is about sex, there is a chapter for your pleasure. And that really talks about, too, is like how my husband and I were able to rebuild our relationship emotionally, but also physically in the bedroom, too, and regaining that trust and that confidence and that passion and that love, which some people struggle to find after they've been, you know, in an affair or have had someone betray them in that relationship. So it really provides a lot of hope, but it also provides a lot of clarity. And I just think it just gives a really great overview. And it's not only my perspective, it's perspective from a lot of my podcasts. So I've had over 100 episodes as well, and a lot of great features. And those guests really talk about like HR. They talk about, like, some of them are doing life coaches, some of them are doctors, health coaches, and then a lot of them are CEOs and some are CHOs, which are those chief household officers that are running those households. So there's just a lot of great information in there that helps you personally and professionally develop over the years and through the seasons of life that you're going through.
That's amazing. And how is the whole book writing process? Like, I feel like obviously the writing, which I am terrible at, to talk about C's get degrees. That's me. Like, how do you go through that process? And this is, by the way, everyone listening, question for me. So you're gonna
Yeah.
have to learn from me. But talk me through how you like writing the book process goes.
Yeah, so I mean, it started with just as the journal, and then I put it into a Word document. And then in 2020, I had 25,000 words. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go get published and find someone to write this book. And so I went on Upwork and I hired this girl. I didn't pay her anything, but I just kind of scheduled a call. And she said, I love your whole story, but you only have 25,000 words and you need more. And I really think that you should incorporate other people's advice and their stories as well. And she says, why don't you start a podcast? And then over the course of the next year or two, you'll be able to have all this great insight and stories from all these other people as well, to where you can take your book from 25,000 words to 55,000 words. And so I did work through that process. And then I hired a book coach, which I've invested about $15,000 with a coach, like, hold you accountable. They have editors, and it is a journey. So the journal started in 2018, and I just published my book in April of 2024. So it is a labor of love. It is a commitment. It's a huge financial commitment as well, but it's a super cool experience. And I would say that I was a C student and I was able to see myself to CEO and author, but that's because I believed in myself and I knew that the work I was doing was going to impact and help other people. And it's just a great experience. You get to be creative and you get to have fun, and everybody has a story in them. I'm sure that you have a book, and you may have two or three books to share. And I personally hired a publisher, so I have an actual publisher. They handled that for me, versus doing self-publishing, which you can do as well. I just decided to make that investment and go that route.
Absolutely. And that's all part of our journey. You mentioned journey. Life is a journey, our wealth is a journey, our mental and physical health are journeys. How important is it for everyone listening to know, like, where you're at now doesn't mean it's at where you're at in 6 years, right? It took you 6 years to get the book done, right? And how many changes have occurred. So talk us through what it means to be on this journey that we all like to call life.
Yeah, so my dad always said to me, plans are like pie crust, they're gonna break. And he's right. Like, there's so many things. It's like I'm a planner. So it's like I have the 135, I've got the business plan, and I'll have a plan to do everything. It just doesn't always go according to plan, but at least I'm like thinking about how I want it to go, to where there is a little bit of guidance as well. But my day will change on a daily basis, just because, number one, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm juggling a lot of different hats and I have to be flexible and do that. But I think just having a really great attitude and having gratitude, that was something else too, is, oh, I would always think about everything I had to do and everything that wasn't going right. And I've really just switched my mind up to be like, I get to do this. I have a great life. I'm grateful for the people. And I don't know. I've always been naturally high, but I think I'm even more high now, because I have found the true me, which I think a lot of people are so busy living their life for somebody else, or what others people think how they should live their life. So for instance, like my husband, he wanted to be a writer, I guess, as a kid. He's not a writer. He's working in corporate America doing financial spreadsheets, thinking of every way to get out of his business. And that's because he doesn't get to do what he wants or love every single day. So I would say the quicker you can find out who you are and who you want to be and not anybody else, and then find out what you're passionate about and create a life where that pays you, you'll be a much happier person. And this journey that you're on will become even better. And it's just so cool and so fulfilling, but it does take a lot of work to get there and a lot of internal work when I say work.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a common theme that has popped up over, I don't know how many episodes I'm on now, close to 100, probably at 100. If you count the little ones, over 100, but our main ones over 100 at 100, is this whole concept between caring about people and then caring more about money. Today, our conversation had nothing to do with money. You've never talked about it. You said be successful as an entrepreneur and all those things, but you never said, I made 100,000 or I made $1 million or my goal is to do $10 million. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, if you take care of people, which includes yourself, you're going to have what I say is a true wealthy life. And that true wealth is happiness, living joyfully the way you want to, giving back to others, and then having the ability to do almost essentially what you want and using money as a tool. How, I guess if I'm wrong, let me know, but I think I'm on the right track that you care more about
Mhm.
people than money. What does money mean to you in regards to your journey and where you're at in life?
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up too, because my husband and I have different perspectives when it comes to the money. So when I started my company, like I had a 10-year plan with an exit strategy, and I knew that I would make money. The first 3 years, I didn't make any money. I didn't even pay myself, like literally did not pay myself. And I didn't pay myself until we were on the verge of getting divorced when I was like, crap, I'm gonna have to go out and pay rent. And it was at that time I was walking on the beach with one of my team members. And I was saying, yeah, I can't afford to pay myself and we have no money. And she looked at me and she goes, with that poor mindset, you're always going to be poor. And she goes, you really have to think abundantly. And you've got to put yourself on payroll and you will find that money and that money will go to you. And I did. In the following week, I put myself on payroll and I never had a problem paying myself. Now I started out with like paying myself, I think like $250 a week. Now I pay myself a substantial amount of money more because my business can sustain it. But I never do anything for the money. I always make decisions based on people and how it's going to make me feel, knowing and trusting that the money will come eventually. I mean, karma. Like if you do good, good things are going to happen to you. And so I really believe that like what you're saying as well is like to me, like I think of health and I think of wealth and I think wealth is getting to wake up every single day and being happy and living that life fully. Now, I have put in a lot of time and a lot of energy and I've made some serious investments to get me where I am today where I can wake up and I don't have to worry about bills. Like I don't live paycheck to paycheck. I have savings, I have no debt, but that came with a lot of sacrifices and a lot of smart decision making. And my husband, who is very budget savvy. So my parents were entrepreneurs. They made tons of money, but they also spent a lot of money. We had new cars every 2 years. My mom had a Rolex. I don't know how many carats her diamond ring was. I mean, my parents spent a lot of money. My husband's family didn't make very much money, never spent any money, still live in the same house they lived in for 40 years. They drove the same cars until they died. They're retired and they have money. They don't have to work anymore. My parents are still working. So my husband and I are like a combination of both of them as well. So I believe that you should enjoy life and the money you're making throughout. So we do travel a lot, but that's also because, as an example, my husband's mom, she retired and planned on traveling and was diagnosed with cancer. So for the past 10 years, she's been, dealing with that. So I think that everyone should develop a savings plan to where they get to enjoy life every single year and take the trips. I do believe that if my husband and I were doing that earlier in our marriage, we wouldn't have ended up where we were as far as the affair, because we would have had that special time together, a way where we were able to rekindle our passion, our love with each other and make some really amazing memories. So I think it's challenging to find the balance between saving the amount of money, making the investments, keeping the business going, keeping the marriage going. It's very, very hard. I don't want to make it sound like it's very easy because it's not. But it is possible with the right conversation, the right plan, and the right mindset.
Just talk about it. It's communication. Just talk about it. And ultimately, I tell everyone, yes, your life is about memories. Your life is not about what you have at retirement at 65, 67, or where the hell retirement age is by the time we get there. That's not what it's about. It's about those memories. And you need to make those memories now. The numbers are crazy out there. When people retire and they reach retirement age, which is now upwards of 70, they on average do not live another 15 years. So you're going to put everything away, your entire, previously 65 years, 70 years to be old, have your health going down, to like really have fun for 15? No, that doesn't make sense to me. You need to live life now. However, like you said, there is a balance. You still need a plan for the future, but live now, create memories.
Yeah, 100%. And so just to kind of give you a prime example is I've been wanting a new car for a really long time. All of my team members have been buying new cars. And I'm like, the people that work for me have nicer cars than me. And he was like, yes. However, did they go to Europe or they go to Italy for 2 weeks and have a car's driver stay in a really nice resort and create all these memories? No, they didn't. Are they going to be doing that next year and taking a whole month off? I go, no. He goes, all the clothes you buy. He goes, you can't go and spend this much money on a car and do all of that. You have to make a decision. And he's like, how often are you in your car? And I'm like, well, I'm only in there like maybe 30 minutes a day. And he's like, so why do you want to spend so much money for like 30 minutes of a day just to get your ego pumped and you to be like, as he says, effed by society? So don't let them mind F you. So it's just a decision. I mean, I'm going to get a car eventually, but for the past like 3 years, I haven't. I've been just putting that money in savings, not having a car payment so that I can do all the other things.
Absolutely. All right. As we wrap this up, what is one thing you want to leave everyone listening with so they can take this next step forward, wherever they're at, to take the next step forward in their journey?
Yeah, so I would like to lean into the relationships, and I think you can use these 4 ground rules in any relationship, whether it's personal or professional. And those 4 ground rules I'm going to leave you with is number 1 is going to be acknowledge, and that's acknowledge your role. Acknowledge how you show up, acknowledge how you dress, acknowledge your tone of voice, what your message is, and acknowledge what you want to do with your time because it's very limited. My next one is going to be accept the facts, and that means accept what you can't change, accept that people aren't going to be you, you can't expect them to be you, and that may be accepting an apology or admitting that you did something wrong and taking ownership of that. And the next thing is going to be to avoid negativity. So avoid negative situations, and that could be something that gets you in trouble, something that triggers you to make a bad decision or emotionally become depressed, and avoid places and people that are just going to bring you down. We don't have time for that. And then my last one's going to be attract what you want. So if you want to live a really healthy lifestyle, start hanging out with people that are super healthy. So they're making healthy eating choices. They're going to the gym. They're hanging out doing meditation. They're in the parks as well. If you want to be super successful, find a successful person and hang out with them. Ask them to mentor you. Hang out with CEOs. Go to networking events. You are who you hang out with. So attract who you want to become by hanging out with those people as well. So you can get those 4 ground rules on my website. I've got a lot of freebies as well, but every relationship starts with you, and you can be the best. Once you're the best version of you, then you can be the best version for other people.
Absolutely. And don't forget to stroke it, whether it's the podcast or the book or whatever you want to do. We'll have all the descriptions below, but obviously don't forget to stroke it.
100%.
The preceding program was sponsored by Black Mammoth. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Black Mammoth. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Black Mammoth website, www.blackmammoth.com. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions and securities, or the rendering of personalized investment advice due to various factors, including changing market conditions. The information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up-to-date, Black Mammoth do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature and is provided for informational purposes only, and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results.